the Tree Heart Sanctuary. Deep inside a silent forest, surrounded by towering trees and soft whispers of wind, stood a forgotten wooden room built around a massive ancient tree. The tree was alive, strong, and timeless, but everything around it had faded away. The floor was rough and broken. Dust covered every corner. Nature had slowly begun reclaiming the space. It felt abandoned, yet full of hidden potential. One day, a team arrived, not to destroy, but to restore. They started by clearing the entire area. Dirt, debris, and uneven surfaces were removed carefully. The most important rule was simple: the tree must remain untouched. Every root, every curve, every inch of it was respected. Once the ground was clean, they began shaping a circular foundation around the tree. It wasn't just construction. It felt like they were building a stage for the tree to stand proudly. Then came the artistic phase. Natural stones were placed carefully across the surface. Soft green moss was added between them. Pieces of driftwood were arranged to create a raw, forest-like texture. And then, the magic began. Liquid epoxy resin was poured slowly across the floor. It flowed like water, filling every gap, surrounding every stone, embracing every detail. Over time, it hardened into a crystal-clear surface. The result was breathtaking, a transparent floor that looked like a frozen river, capturing nature inside it forever. With warm wooden furniture, soft lighting, and a cozy bed placed beside the tree, the room transformed into a peaceful sanctuary. It was no longer just a room. It was a living connection between nature and human creativity. The Forest River Living Room. In another part of the forest, a wooden house stood on a gentle slope, surrounded by tall pine trees. Inside, the living room felt empty and lifeless, just plain wood and silence. But the vision for this space was bold: to bring a flowing river inside the house. The transformation began with planning the river's path. A natural, curved design was marked across the floor, as if a stream had once flowed through it. The workers carefully carved out sections of the floor to create depth. The deeper areas would represent flowing water, while the edges would remain shallow. Next came the natural elements. Smooth river stones, fine sand, and small pebbles were placed along the carved path. Tiny plants and moss were added to make it feel alive. Everything was arranged with precision, yet it looked completely natural, as if it had always been there. Then, layer by layer, epoxy resin was poured. The first layers created depth. The deeper sections turned into rich, blue-tinted streams. The shallow areas remained clear, revealing every stone beneath. As more layers were added, the illusion became stronger. It didn't look like resin anymore. It looked like flowing water frozen in time. Light reflected beautifully off the surface, creating movement even when everything was still. Once the process was complete, wooden furniture was placed around the river. Sofas, tables, and warm lighting turned the space into a cozy yet breathtaking living area. Now, instead of just sitting in a room, it felt like living beside a peaceful forest stream. The glass forest bedroom. This house was designed for peace, silence, and deep connection with nature. The bedroom was simple at first: plain wooden walls, empty floors, and large windows overlooking the forest. But the goal was different here. Instead of creating something bold, the aim was to create something calm, something that feels like nature itself. The process began by covering the floor with natural forest elements. Dry leaves, small branches, moss, and pieces of bark were arranged carefully. Each piece was placed to look random, yet perfectly balanced. Walking across it felt like stepping on a forest floor. Then came a thin, crystal-clear layer of epoxy resin. It sealed everything in place while keeping every detail visible. The leaves, the textures, the colors, all preserved forever. As sunlight entered through the large windows, it reflected off the glossy surface, creating a soft glow throughout the room. At night, warm lights made the floor shine gently, giving the space a magical, dreamlike feeling. A simple wooden bed was placed in the center. No heavy decorations, no distractions. Just silence, nature, and peace. It became more than a bedroom. It became a place where the mind could truly rest. The ocean-inspired wooden retreat. Far from the forest, near the sound of distant waves, stood a wooden retreat inspired by the ocean. The space was beautiful, but incomplete. It needed life, movement, emotion. The idea was simple: bring the ocean indoors. The wooden floor was redesigned with flowing wave patterns. Curves and lines were shaped carefully, mimicking the natural motion of water. Then came the colors. Blue-tinted epoxy resin was poured across the surface. Different shades of blue were blended together, deep ocean tones in some areas, lighter shades in others. To create realism, white textures were added to represent sea foam. These details made the waves look alive, as if they were moving. Layer by layer, the resin built depth and motion. When it was finished, the floor looked like a frozen ocean, waves captured in a single moment. Minimal wooden furniture was added to keep the focus on the floor. Soft lighting enhanced the reflections, making the waves shimmer gently. Standing inside the room felt like standing at the edge of the sea, calm, peaceful, and endless. The nature garden interior. The final house was all about life, color, and vibrancy. The interior was empty at first, just a wooden structure waiting to be transformed. The vision? To create a garden inside the house. The process started by designing sections of the floor like garden beds. Different areas were filled with natural elements: stones, soil, moss, flowers, and plants. Each section had its own character. Some areas were filled with green textures, others with colorful flowers. Small pathways were created using pebbles, giving the feeling of walking through a real garden. Then epoxy resin was poured across the entire surface. It sealed everything under a transparent layer, preserving the beauty forever. The colors remained vibrant, the textures remained alive. The result was stunning. Walking across the floor felt like walking through a garden that never fades, never dries, never changes. With soft lighting and simple wooden decor, the space became warm, lively, and full of energy. It wasn't just a room anymore. It was a living piece of nature, inside a home. These 5 wooden houses show something truly special. That design is not just about building. It's about feeling. It's about respecting nature and finding ways to live within it, not against it. Through epoxy resin and natural elements, these homes capture moments of nature and turn them into something timeless. And maybe, just maybe, this is what the future of living looks like. Herb.